Excuse me, are you the manager? I live here and I pay rent, and I'm sick of that smell going on next door. The smell is real bad. Okay, them poor dogs he got been barking. Who knows when's the last time they've been out? You hear me? I'm about sick of this.
I'll have my team check that out for you. Just give them the apartment number. Look at the mess in this hallway. I bet it was that little colored boy from apartment 102, bless his heart. Oh my gosh, something sure stinks in this apartment. It almost makes me want to vomit. Oh, coffee. I wonder if it's still any good. It's a little cold, but not bad.
Hello? Yeah. I think he's dead.
Oh, these people will do anything to get out of paying rent. Oh, check his pulse.
Oh, Mary, Mother Jesus, help this poor soul.
Well, it's a little late for that. You need to pray that someone will pay his past due rent. My bonus is dependent on that.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to By the Fifth Podcast. It's your boy Roger Tico Trent. I'm so excited to be here today. This episode is called Death in Apartment 101. You know, Albert Hubert said, "Do not take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive." You know, in this business called property management, you go through a lot of things. You see a lot of things. And so today we're going to be discussing some of the kind of gory and weird sides of this. So I'm excited about my guest today, Debra Hicks. And oh my God, you're just going to love her. She has a wealth of knowledge. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. Debra Hicks stumbled into property management 34 years ago, when she was trying to make ends meet and began cleaning apartments. She has climbed the industry ladder and sat in multiple positions, having an understanding of all areas of the business. She currently holds the title as regional manager and loves to share her experience and partner with those around her to achieve success. She has developed a love and passion for the housing industry over the years and has acquired many accreditations and in specific fields. She is married and has a wonderfully combined household with 8 adult children. Yes, 8. 7 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. She has found a new hobby with her husband, riding a Harley Davidson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to By the Fifth Podcast, Debra Hicks. Hey, Debra.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. So, were you riding a Harley today?
No, not today. A little too chilly. But as soon as we get a warmer weather, we're on it.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I've never rode a Harley before. I was on this BMW motorcycle, and it was something from a movie. And the guy who purchased it asked me if I wanted to ride, and I took a ride, and it was exhilarating.
It is.
My only time riding, but it was exhilarating.
It is. It is fun. It is exciting, and it is right up my alley.
Yes, I love it. And
Yeah.
wow, 8 adult children.
Yes, 8 adult children,
That
and they
is
are incredible.
amazing. Yes, I have 7, and everybody's always like, "You got 7?"
Yeah, and the grandbabies completely steal your heart, so be prepared.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You have no idea your heart could even grow that size.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, Deborah, today I'm sure you've heard we're talking about death in apartment 101. And, I had a friend who he was a police officer. And I was telling him some of the stories that I witnessed. And he said, man, you've seen more than I've seen. And I'm a police officer. And I'm like, yeah, What do you think about that, Deborah?
I think that in our industry, we see more than we are ever prepared for because you don't know what to expect when you're walking those units and you're walking that property and you have no idea what's going to be on that other side.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is so true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions in regards to that. As you know, I used to be in property management. For those of you who don't know, Deborah used to be my boss. She was my boss. She was my mentor. I mean, mostly everything I've learned in this business, I've learned from her. Though I've been in it many years and had many managers and stuff, like I said, Deborah is a wealth of knowledge and I've learned a lot from her. Deborah, I remember one time I was an assistant manager, right? And I went into an apartment. The residents were complaining about the smell, right? They said there was a smell coming out of the apartment. They said they hadn't seen the resident in a couple weeks. The dogs were in there barking, and they wanted us to do a wellness check,
Right.
So we did, and we went in and we checked. And immediately when you opened the door, there was a smell like you would not believe.
Yes.
And when we went in there, the dogs were in their cage and they were kind of hunched over eating, and we noticed the body. And the gentleman had committed suicide. And he committed suicide naked. And the little dogs were taking bits of his body and taking them in their cages and having snacked out. Yes. So it was a lot to take in, to say the least, right? And so after this, again, I was the manager, so I didn't have to do all the behind the scenes stuff. But the apartment got cleaned up, all of that went through, and the body taken care of. And so his ex-wife came to, get his things and all of that stuff. So, we gave her the key. She went in there and she committed suicide in the same apartment. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it, And when I look at something like that, I wonder, for me, it was hard for me to kind of get through that. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of tough. But have you ever experienced anything like this before?
Yeah, with the amount of time that I've been in the business, it's never something that you'll get used to. The smell that you were talking about is specific, and you become familiar with that as you get closer and closer to the door. And so you I think that the first and second time you begin to question yourself, but as you get used to this, it's something that you go, okay, I need to be prepared. The dogs, I've not experienced that, but I think just knowing the different dynamics of how people pass away, whether it be a natural occurrence or it be something that's self-induced, is a tragedy. And I think that we all have to remember that is a human life. That, however, again, that they passed is something that has to be respected. And, it's just, we've walked in on some, and I think that we have walked in on some that have been naked. And I found the very first thing that I think maybe even just being a mom was immediately try to find a blanket, and covered them. So it's different dynamics that you feel. I do have something very odd though that happened. I had an assistant manager that was walking units, and her and our maintenance individual came upon a person that had passed away. And she called me, and I said, you need to go ahead and call 911. And she did, and they asked her to give him mouth to mouth. And she
Really?
said, there's no pulse. And they said, well, we need you to try. And she said, no, he's cold. There's no pulse. There's no heartbeat. His body is hard and cold.
Right.
It's stiff because it had been a couple of days. And they insisted that she try. And of course, we think about that now and we're like, what were you thinking?
Right.
Asking, no, I'm not going to pry his mouth open. So it's just, a little bit of some oddities. Yeah.
Right. That is bizarre. Like
Yeah.
that they would want that. But she stood her ground, I guess.
She
right?
did stand her ground and came out of there shaking her head. And even just, most recently we talk about the crazy things of our industry. And I think that one will always stay with her is, can you believe they wanted me to try to give mouth to mouth?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, for those of you who go out and look at By the Fifth on our YouTube page, we always do a little funny skit with cartoons about the show that we're doing that day. And in this one where the body was discovered, the one leasing person says, boy, these residents will do anything to get out of paying their rent. Right?
Oh, gosh.
So,
Oh, gosh.
so
Yeah.
when you think of it like that, I wonder how do you keep your professionalism and at the same time keep a human sense, right? Because sometimes we could be so hard, the business can make you hard, by excuses that you get and everything else, and you're piled up on work, right? But how do you keep that balance?
I think the first and foremost, most important thought that you have to keep in your mind is you are being entrusted with an owner's asset. You are being entrusted with a multi-million-dollar business. You have someone that has said, I trust you to run this property. I trust you to oversee this property. So right there, you have trust. And so you've got to make sure that owner stays protected. And that has got to be your first, I think for me, your first line of business. So you have the rules that you have to follow. The dynamics with the death is not just stumbling across a past, a deceased person or a body in an apartment, because you have so many other dynamics that follow right alongside of that. Because you have all of your laws that you have to follow. So, you've got someone that's there that has passed away, and in your mind, okay, I'm protecting the owner's assets. I also, by law, have to protect the estate of this deceased person because you know nothing about their personal life. So you have to kick into that business mode and think, I've got to protect this person's assets. He may have a chair that just belongs to him, but that was his chair. And it may have been his favorite chair, but that's still his asset. And so for me, I kick into, I become a protector. And that's where I have to start. I have to protect this person's things until I know that the person appointed to take care of his things has been granted. And that would, of course, be through, the estate.
That's good. That's good. I love that you said that, because I think people who are outside of the business, they think that, when someone deceased, if you can't get in touch with their family members, then, everybody on site gets to go in and pick out
Oh,
furniture and
no.
clothes, and you just have a shopping day, a shopping spree
Oh,
at this
no.
poor person's expense, right?
Right, right.
But it's not like that, is what you're saying.
No, it's not. It is for us, we, again, depending on the household, if it is just one person, and we find the person, we notify the authorities, and then we immediately change the locks, and the person in charge is the only person that gets that key. Now we try to notify next of kin or emergency contact, and let them know, or the authorities will do that so that we don't have to be the bearer of that news. But then it can get ugly, or it can they can understand, and sometimes the ugly happens more often than the understanding, because it is, I have every right to be in there. No, you don't. Not until you go and take the appropriate steps. So I would say more often than not, we are we're the bad guy. We are, why are you withholding all of his things? I just need to get the wallet. I just need to get well, then we're going to do it the right way, because we're going to protect his or her things until you do it the right way. And so I think that's where the human side comes in, because you are that protector of that person's items. You're still caring for them, even though they've passed on. You're still doing the right thing. And I think that when you do the right thing, that's what matters.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I never thought about from this side of it. I didn't think about the being the bad guy, right? The family coming and all they really want to do is grab something. Some of them may have alternative, motives, right? Ulterior motives. Or some may just want to, grab something that they really need. But at the end of the day, it's the property's responsibility to protect that asset. And I know that's gotta be tough to do, especially if that family member is, grieving in that moment, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It is. And again, it gets ugly. But can you imagine? We don't know their personal life. So we don't know if, let's just say, the ex-wife is the one that was allowed to be in there, or if there was a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or if there's a favorite child, or that's not our place to make that call at all, because we don't know their life. And so again, it takes us back to, well, then let's do the right thing, the morally and ethically and legal thing, and that is to protect them until whomever feels that they are entitled can go to the courts and do all of the correct paperwork, and then they are in charge of whatever is left in that apartment.
So what if Mr. Johnson dies in this apartment, right? And you're going through everything, the proper protocols, but someone else has a key that you're not aware of, and they go into this apartment and start to take things and pack up. How do you handle something like that?
So that would have been that Mr. Johnson's person that had that key would have had access before we found out? Is that what you're saying?
Right,
Okay.
before you found out.
So in that case, and that has happened, then what we've had to do is we've had to turn it over to the attorneys. And it would be an unauthorized person. We've had to go through the steps of the rent's not paid. You turn them over for non-payment. You show that it's been a deceased person. When you found out, of course, you document everything and provide all of that documentation. And it's happened, unfortunately. People have been cleaned out. But you go through those legal steps. And as long as you know that what you're doing is the right thing, then there's no looking back. You don't have, there's not a shadow, following you. There's not a question of, did I do good? Did I do bad? Did I do right? Did I do wrong? As long as you follow that straight path, you're good.
Nice, nice. So there is a protocol that that the properties that you worked for, that everyone follow. It's a
Yes,
specific protocol. Is that right?
it is. Yes, it is. And that is,
Okay.
yeah, they have to follow that protocol.
Okay. Okay. So it's not like, everybody's winging it. Again, this is, some
No.
of our people listening aren't familiar at all, so that's really good to know,
So I'm
that,
sure that
that they're in safe
I'm
hands.
sure that it's state specific. And again, you have to make sure that you follow those laws that are state specific or even county specific. Was having lunch today actually with some friends, and they so for us we have to send everybody to probate court.
Okay.
Just learned that in a different state, that I was having lunch with some friends that they live in a different state, and in that state their probate takes 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So something has happened and they were named, but they have to stay in probate for 6 months before anything is released, which I found very interesting and very coincidental that I was having lunch out of the blue. This came up, and then I was going to be talking with you at 4 o'clock, so I thought that was pretty awesome.
Wow.
But yeah, we can typically they come to the office and we let them know with compassion. You've got to go down to probate court. You've got to go ahead and let them know that you want to become the executor of the estate. That is handled through a judge. They bring the paperwork back. We are very, very cautious. We get that paperwork back. We do send it to our attorneys because we have found that some people have falsified in the past. In 30 years, we've seen it all. And so we send that paperwork to the attorney. And once that is cleared, then we give them the key and they take care of the apartment. And then you give them some time to get it cleaned up and cleaned out. And unfortunately, you still have those that want to just clean it out, get what they want, and leave the mess. Then you have those that have that compassion and take care of the entire apartment and empty it and clean it and then deliver the key. That's a rarity.
So tell me this. Once that apartment is, they went through probate, the apartment's been cleaned out, how soon can that apartment be rented? Just say like it was, I had someone commit suicide, slit their wrist, and the blood was just, ridiculous. It was everywhere. Cleaning up an apartment like that, how long will it typically take to turn it around and rent it again, or will you rent it again?
No, we would rent it again, but if you're talking about fluids, human fluids, then you're talking biohazard. And I don't, we would take a different approach, a professional approach, using a company that specializes in biohazard cleanup. So that would not just be, hey, maintenance man, go remove the carpet, clean up this mess. That's not what we do. We would get a biohazard team in there, clean it up, make sure that everything is sealed, removed properly, handled properly, and then the apartment is turned professionally the way that we do, and then we rent it again.
Okay. When I first started in the business and I was doing maintenance, I had a my maintenance supervisor called me in to where the suicide had taken place afterwards, and there was blood everywhere. And he says, "So your job is to clean this." And my eyes dropped. I said, "What?" And he started laughing. He's like, "I'm only kidding." But as a young young guy in the business, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And it was like, "Oh my gosh." But yeah.
So in your mind at that time, Roger, were you going to say, okay, yes, sir, or man, I'm out?
You know what? I was in my mind preparing to clean.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a young guy with a family, and for me, it was like, okay, roll up your sleeves, get the carpet cleaner, and get
No.
I mean, when you're young like that, it's just amazing the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thankfully, Roger, we're kidding, and there is a process we
They
have to go
got you
through for this.
good.
We don't claim that. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are people who, if they knew there was a body once that apartment, that they would move in there. I had a resident once call and complain about a ghost in their apartment, and it was a like a real thing to them.
Oh,
Like
wow.
they called and wanted us to do something about the ghost in the apartment, and they said it was stuck in the door.
Oh,
And they wanted to know if anybody died in that apartment before, and of course we couldn't give that information out, you know. But have you ever had anything like that in regards to people not wanting to move in there, that they might have heard something or anything like that?
we don't give a history. Yes, of course, because it doesn't matter how large your community is. Our world is small.
Yes.
Everybody seems to know everybody. It amazes me. It doesn't matter what community I'm at. It's like they all know each other and they're very quick to talk. So it's just, I always try to stay on the positive side and highlight the positive things. If it's an out and out, I can't move in here because I heard there was a suicide. Well, then you know what? Maybe this is not the best place for you. You have to be careful that you don't steer. You have to be careful that you're not, leading people to different places. But there are options. And then you just have to open up those options, while being fair to everybody else. Yeah.
Very,
So I always try to stay on the positive side, and I think that if somebody said that there was a ghost stuck in a door, I would ask them to open the door and let him out. Maybe he just wants out.
Right. Open the door.
Yeah, just open the
That's
door.
great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, the things that we hear and see in this business, right?
Yes. Yes. It is
Oh my
ongoing.
gosh. Well, tell me this, how do you suggest people deal with having seen something like that? There's a lot of talk today about mental health and dealing with, trauma, right? And seeing something like that, the first time I ever came across the body, was when, like, again, I just started in the business years ago. And the maintenance guy told me, he says, "You smell that?" He's like, "It's definitely a body in there." And so we went in there, and a man had committed suicide, and there was brain matter everywhere, and it was a lot.
Yep.
They gave me the day off, which I was glad, and I went home and I had nightmares. And it was tough to get around it for the first one. After a while, I got used to it, you know what I mean? But I didn't know anything about mental health. I didn't really know how to deal with it or anything. What do you suggest for people who's working in this industry and comes across something like this?
Communication, passion. I know that we offer a hotline for people to reach out and talk to someone. I think that just in our world in general, if we're kinder, if we can, you've just experienced this. Now, how are you going to unload this? How are you going to, and just be there, and be able to listen and really truly say to them, "I hear you." Because they may not be able to navigate, how do I take the next step? They may have an aftermath. It's that constant check-in, and it's that constant support. And it's, I think, all of us being willing to step out of our comfort zone and really get out of ourselves and say, wait a minute, I care about you because of who you are. You're a team member, you're a person, you're a neighbor, you're, whomever. How are you? And then stop and really, really listen. don't just say, how are you? And then keep walking to the bathroom, but really stop and find yourself slowing down and care, and then really try to open yourself to knowing, how are you? And if they're not okay, it's not always, hey, maybe you need to see a grief counselor, or maybe you need to see, but maybe it's someone to help you get through some dynamics that may have triggered something else in your life. So I think that as just people, we need to slow down and ask the question, and then be prepared to stay still and listen.
I love that. Property management isn't always easy.
No,
There's a lot. There's a lot going on, People think, you just sit behind a desk all day and eat donuts, and they think that the maintenance guy is just out there hanging around on a golf cart, drinking sodas,
Right.
But there's so much that goes into property management, and you're always busy, and you work where people live. And I love the fact that you said, remembering that people are human, having that empathy, and that sympathy for people, I think is amazing. And you always had that touch, even when I worked with you, I loved that. And I learned from you as far as learning that balance. Because you're about business,
Right.
Absolutely 100%. But Roger, are you okay today? How are you? Come into my office, have a seat, talking over things. And I just thought that you always, represented well. And I guess that's why you
Thank
are
you.
where you are today.
Well, I have to tell you, Roger, I truly love what I do, and I love this industry, and I think that what you're doing is dynamic, and I want it to reach millions and millions of people, because I do think that property management is wonderful. Just the customer service and the opportunity that we get to be a part of a choice of someone's living environment. And so I just, it's incredible what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I was so excited, and I'm so happy that you were on our podcast today. And I know we've learned so much already just from this. And so that we know, especially for those in the business, God forbid we have to go through this. There are protocols. We want to make sure that we are, handling the owner's assets correctly, but yet remembering that these are people and we are entrusted with their assets. Well, that's going to wrap this up for today. And thanks again, Debbie. We're so gracious to have you on By the Fifth. And we look forward to having you again on the show.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. And that'll do it for our show today, By the Fifth.
The name is Trent, Roger Trent, but you can call me Tico. What's up?